Hello and welcome to the Late Lunch Leftovers podcast, where we take a look back at some of our highlights from the past week. As usual, Mike Kewley joined us on Wednesday to talk all about mindfulness. Relay for Life was our charity of the week. And we begin once again on a glorious day with a trip to the allotment. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, so I'm looking forward to finding out how it all went.
Howard, are you loving the allotment so far?
I'm loving the allotment. It's very kind of you to set up such a gorgeous day. I say that the cloud will come over the sun now, but it is actually, the sun is warm. As you can tell, we're in T-shirts. I mean, that's not bad for a Manx summer, is it, to actually be out in a T-shirt?
I mean, obviously those just listening to audio won't know that, but we are on Facebook, so do go over to Facebook. Sarah's here doing all our social media for us this afternoon, so there's photos and video galore from the allotments. And of course, we are joined again by the lovely Tanya Anderson, who is with us for the next hour. So, Tanya, what has been happening since we were last here?
You know, it's funny that you say Manx summer because the last couple of years have been so nice. Last year, this time, we had a hosepipe ban, if you recall.
Yeah, that's right.
This year, it's a bit better. So we're getting plenty of rain, but sunshine, and everything is growing. And there's lots of things to be picking this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. You say everything is growing. There is a lot of life in the allotment, and in fact we spotted a little bunny wabbit as well, because with everything growing you also get everything being eaten.
He's not so little, actually.
He looks
remarkably well fed.
Yeah, well, I spotted this guy hanging around, I don't know, a month or two ago, and he's basically taken up residence up here at this corner of the allotment. And we found that he's been busy helping himself to some of my veg just before the show. So we'll go and have a look at that in a bit. And there's lots of other life up here. We've been having loads of butterflies. The entire island has been swarmed by masses of butterflies. There's plenty of pheasants up here, plenty of everything alive and growing.
And you're used to this whole idea of growing your own, aren't you, Howard? Because you're very much involved in the whole sort of gardening scene yourself.
I've grown veggies in particular. I mean, growing plants generally I've always enjoyed. Not always with a great deal of success, and as Tanya was saying, it can sometimes be a bit of for every hit you might have several misses, which I get no end of misses in my gardening career. But I love doing the veggies, doing something different. And there's been a great resurgence, I think, in the last 10, 15 years, particularly with old Hugh Fearlessly Eats It All and such like, with people being interested in growing their own veg, also growing veg that perhaps you wouldn't find in the shops.
Mm-hmm. And so what are you eating at home at the moment that you've grown yourself, both of you? Howard first, what are you eating at home at the moment?
I did have some lettuce going. I've got some lovely yellow courgettes, which are really nice, really attractive golden variety. There's some beetroot just coming up, a few tomatoes, although I won't bore you with the details, but tomatoes every year have a few problems. So I had lovely little plum tomatoes, but not as many as I would like. I do enjoy globe artichokes, which do quite well in my garden, so I have some globe artichokes, which are a real art to eat at this time of the year, but they're quite delicious.
And what about you, Tony?
Well, this year we have the new house, so we've just moved in and been starting to put in the home garden. So at home I have lots of lettuces and greens and coriander, and then the greenhouse, of course, and the tomatoes are coming in thick and fast now, especially the sun gold, which are amazing. And the aubergines are starting to produce, so I noticed the first big fruit just a couple days ago. And I also have some dwarf green peppers, so the sweet peppers, and the one plant that I have on the go is producing loads. I think there's probably about 30 peppers on it. And cucumbers, loads of cucumbers as well at home.
Oh, fantastic. But it is an ongoing cycle of life, isn't it? And so one of the things we're going to be looking at later is planting some things already.
Yes. A lot of us have had busy summers, have done a lot of our planting and sowing in the spring, but there are a lot of things that can be sown right now for quick harvest before autumn and winter start rolling in. And I don't know about you, but this morning I woke up and I could definitely feel a change in the air.
Oh, don't say that. We're just getting into summer.
Please tell us your name and charity.
My name is Becky O'Reilly and I'm from CRUK Relay for Life, Isle of Man.
How did the charity start and what is its purpose?
It started in the Isle of Man in 2010, and while it's centred around the event itself, which takes place on the August bank holiday, the teams who take part are encouraged to fundraise all throughout the year, and it all goes in the fight against cancer. Our goal this year is to hit a cumulative total of 1 million since we started, so it'll be 1 million in 10 years, and all the funds go to Cancer Research UK. It's brilliant. It's a real testament to what our island can do and the amazing community spirit we've got.
Tell us about your team.
So we're a committee of volunteers. We organise the event and we support the teams in their fundraising and help them prepare for the event as well, because obviously it's 24 hours. So they need a bit of guidance, what to bring, what to expect. We also do some fundraising ourselves. You may have seen we've got a raffle where you can win a brand new Mini for just £5. And we're also holding a celebration ball at the end of September because it's to mark our 10th year. We're actually the third committee over the 10 years. It gets handed over every 3 or 4 years, with some people sort of stayed throughout, but the bulk of the committee tends to change every few years. And so, and the first committee only had like 3 or 4 girls on it. They did an amazing job to get it started. So,
who is the charity for?
Well, the actual event, well, it's for everybody. We often refer to we call it our Relay family, and it really describes the vibe that we have of being part of Relay. The teams get to know each other, and everyone, when they all come together over the weekend, it's really amazing. But you don't have to take part in the Relay event to support us. You can fundraise without taking part. We've got a few businesses this month who are donating an amount per item when they sell it, with like Blue Moon Gift Shop, Robinson's, Mike's Whippy, 14 North. They've all got involved as well. So it's really for everybody to get involved in.
Which other organisations do you work with?
Relay for Life actually started in America with the American Cancer Society. So you find relays happening all over the world that support their local sort of main cancer research charity. So ours goes to Cancer Research UK, and all our funds stay in the Northwest. So it goes to research centres that Isle of Man patients have access to for such things as clinical trials, new medication, things like that. Obviously that includes one of the world's leading centres, which is the Manchester Institute, which is sort of, it's huge. It's such a lead player in developing not only effective treatments, but more kinder treatments. And early diagnosis, a big thing on early diagnosis tools at the moment, just makes such a huge difference to people affected.
What are your main goals?
Like I mentioned, we're aiming to hit 1 million raised in 10 years this year. But our goals are really so Cancer Research UK can achieve their goals. The big one being to change the survival rate from 2 in 4 to 3 in 4 by 2034. It was 1 in 4 in the 1970s. And medical technology, it just moves so fast now. There shouldn't be any reason why we can't reach it. Every year it's about raising as much as possible, raising the profile of Relay for Life, and also helping to get those key health messages out from CRUK, helping to get those out there as well.
The Late Lunch Charity of the Week.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
We're chatting with Mike Kewley this afternoon about emotions, which, Mike, I think is a really good time to bring this up because, as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's results left, right and centre. So tomorrow is A-level results day. So there will be some, I'm sure, very nervous students out there. Some of them will get exactly what they want. Some of them may be surprised and delighted by what they get. Some less so. It's just the nature of the beast at the end of the day. And so they will absolutely be going through a whole gamut of emotions, I'm sure. So is there anything you can suggest to them for the actual sort of almost, they don't even open an envelope anymore. I think they actually go online to get their results. Yeah, for that moment when they do sort of receive them, is there something they could do fairly quickly to reduce the strength of those emotions?
Yes. So the short answer is yes, there are things you can do to shorten the strength and the length of those emotions. And one of them is the practice we've just done, name it to tame it. Spend some time focusing on your breath to calm your whole system down. I mean, there's loads of things to do. Whether or not people will actually do them, I think it's one of those things where, as you say, it's the nature of the beast, and you'd have to be fairly self-aware and mindful to know, right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be nice and calm and go, oh well, I'm not sure there'll be many students doing that.
I'm guessing Mike Kewley, age 17, 18, may not have been in that place either.
No, exactly. I can't really remember how it was, but it doesn't last, and the other thing sometimes I tell students is, especially at St Ninians, where I sometimes our last mindfulness session is before they get there, before the holidays and before their exams. And I talk about one of my favourite mindfulness teachers, an American guy called Kula Dasa. And he had a fascinating life because he had a really rough family background, very abusive, very tough. Because it was so tough and abusive, he didn't have an education. He's wandered through different jobs and things like that without ever really getting an education. Found meditation, committed wholeheartedly to training his mind. And then when he was a bit older, he found his way back into education. He became a neuroscientist, and now he's one of the few people in the world who is a neuroscientist and meditation master. So, and I say that because things don't always go the way we'd like them to go, and yet often it will work out. Mm-hmm. So that can be a relief that it doesn't all have to hinge on, and we think it does, but obviously, as life rolls on, you realise, everything kind of works out. I don't need to take it too seriously that I haven't got this result, because guaranteed something else will happen. You could be living in Japan, America, India, Thailand. You could be on Mount Everest this time next year, despite what happens tomorrow.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
If you have been listening to the show this week, you will know that our charity of the week is Relay for Life Isle of Man. We heard from Becky O'Reilly on Monday about the background behind the charity and the fact that they raise funds for cancer research with the event that takes place on the 24th of August and all year round as well. And this seemed like the perfect time for me to play an interview I had recently. I managed to catch up with one of the women behind the excellent podcast You, Me and the Big C, Deborah James, talking about the coolest club you never want to be a part of.
Be practical in terms of, right, I've booked 2 cinema tickets to the pub.
Yes, perfect.
2 cinema tickets to the pub.
What sort of pubs do you go to?
So ill. I've booked 2 cinema tickets to the cinema.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Deborah James, author and presenter of podcast You, Me and the Big C.
And it's lovely to talk to you this morning, Deborah, otherwise known, of course, as Bowel Babe. I suppose we should sort of tackle that first. Where did the nickname come from, for those that don't know?
I was going to say, there is a reason for that. So a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed at the age of 35 with stage 4 bowel cancer. And I was very much blindsided by this. I was a deputy head teacher in a secondary school, ploughing through life. And suddenly I had this diagnosis. I was fit, young, active, and didn't tick any boxes for bowel cancer, and yet I'm sitting here with it. Yes, still undergoing treatment, and campaigning about getting people to check their poo, if I can use that word, because let's be blunt, people are not checking their poo, and actually it's very important that we do so. So I know that that's not what we're here to talk about this morning. The opportunity to put it in there, then brilliant.
And this has come about because we're talking to you this morning because there's been some research that's been done, and it's talking about regrets in a way, but that sounds quite negative, because actually what we're talking about is a bit of a sort of mission to motivate people, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. So a survey that has been commissioned by Remember a Charity to ask Brits, what are their biggest regrets in life? But not in terms of negativity, in terms of hopefully giving us a bit of a wake-up call to changing what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I certainly had that wake-up call when I was diagnosed with cancer. So do you want to know what some of them are?
Yeah, go on, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so the biggest, most common regret is not travelling enough, which I think is quite interesting. Nearly 20%, so 19% of people said that was their biggest regret in life. And then the others kind of almost group together. Well, number 2 is not taking better care of our health. And then you've got things such as spending too much time at work and too little time at home.
When you were first concerned that there might be something wrong, you actually sort of went on a bit of a mission yourself, didn't you? And you went skiing and stuff, and you're kind of, I'm going to cram all these things in just in case something's wrong. But it does make you wonder why we wait until that time to actually do these things.
I think we're in denial, actually. I think we kind of always assume that we have tomorrow. And it's the hardest thing to admit that maybe we don't. And it's only when we're forced to stare at it and see it in black and white that we suddenly realise actually we're not invincible. And I think, I don't mean to sound morbid on a lovely, morning. I think it's that's the reality of life, isn't it? And none of us know when our time is up.
Well, exactly, and to be fair, it might be something that feels considerably less morbid if we did talk about it more and made it more of a sort of normality, I guess, wouldn't it? Which is one of the things that I think with the podcast you guys absolutely do, and that's so important, isn't it, is to reach out to people and first of all let them know that there are other people going through this, but to give those add that sort of element of sort of humour to it in a way that you guys do with the way that you discuss it, and let other people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, it's about demystifying it, isn't it? And the more that we can talk about those taboos, the less scary they become. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still petrified of death. Even saying that word still sends shivers down my spine. But the reality is that even in the darkest of times, there can be humour. And that goes very much when we talk about our kind of wills. But actually, if you just kind of talk about it, for me, it actually gives me a little bit of hope. It gives me a little bit of hope that maybe we are doing our own little thing to pave the way for future generations, whether that's leaving a little bit of money, campaigning, whatever it might be. I'm sure we've all been touched by charities or causes that we feel passionate about, and we want to support them moving forward. So let me give you an example. I do some work with Cancer Research UK, and I didn't realise until really recently that about a third of their budget is actually made up of kind of gifts in a will, which is incredible. And when you think what's actually done with that money, so over the last 40 years, cancer survival rates have doubled. So more people are now living with cancer than dying from cancer. So when I was born, the average life expectancy was about a year if you were diagnosed with any form of cancer. And now more people will live for 10 years after they've been told you have cancer, which I take a lot of kind of hope from. And what I would like to see is, you know, in my lifetime, for my children who are 9 and 11, for them to then go on, in their lifetime, and hopefully not have to see friends, relatives, family members, whatever it might be, die from things like cancer.
Those are all our late lunch leftovers for this week. Do tune in for the main helping on Manx Radio, weekdays just after 2 p.m.
Every week, of course, we'll have our regular features with Duxford Diaries. We'll have Mark Tiley's Greatest Hit, midweek Mindfulness, and plenty more with our monthly guests as well.
But for now, thank you so much for listening to the Late Lunch Leftovers podcast. We'll see you again next time.